I remember when I made the conscious decision, because my sister actually said something to me and I was a bit embarrassed. And I think she said, "Oh, you're 25 and you're still in the gang." I'm a bit ashamed. And at that moment I was a bit like, talking to kind of thing, but I went away and I was thinking about it and I was deeply ashamed of myself. Like, why am I doing that? It's child's play, it's nonsense. So eventually, by that time I graduated from uni, going for my first job, so you can't be in both worlds, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So eventually, yeah.
All right. Bismillah. Welcome to another episode of The Bridge. Today we have a dear guest of ours, a friend, a Muslim brother, Abdulkarim.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam,
Thanks for having me.
MashaAllah, it was, I find it like funny because he would say, look, a close friend of mine. I think he said it the last time. It was the first time he's meeting a brother. So I just brother saying a close friend. That's true.
All close friends, akhi. If he called us tomorrow and he said, "Yo, I need you lot." And it's the beautifulness of Islam, wallahi.
Yeah.
The beauty of Islam is that you don't even have to know someone for years or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I met him the other day and he said, "Look, akhi, I need this and that help."
Test him tomorrow, yeah? Call him for some work.
Yeah.
To see if it turns out,
Yeah,
see if the friendship is there.
Unity of Islam, bro. Do you get what I mean? So, first time obviously meeting you, but we appreciate you coming through. And obviously we're just speaking slightly about football and all that stuff. So give us a little bit of background. Where you from originally?
Okay.
Where you from, etc.
So I'm from Nigerian background, born and bred in London.
Born there or born here?
No, born here.
Okay.
In London, yes. I lived here pretty much all my life. So strict Nigerian upbringing.
Okay.
Yeah,
what is it? Yoruba, Igbo?
Yoruba, yeah.
Okay.
Most Nigerians in the UK are Yoruba, you'll find, the majority. They're the loud ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when we was younger, they was the loud ones. To be fair.
Yeah.
There was Yorubas and Igbos. I had friends of both.
Yeah.
But the Igbos are more Christian, the Yorubas are more Muslim.
Correct, yeah.
Igbos are Catholic.
Yes.
Yorubas there'll be Christians, but there'll be a lot of Muslims as well.
Yeah.
Igbos are Catholics, yeah.
I didn't know that the Yorubas are all Christian as well, though.
Not a majority, but it is a mix.
It's a good mix. I actually used to think like Nigeria was 50-50 Muslim Christian, but I found out not too long ago it's actually the Muslims slightly outnumber the Christians. And it's not because of any dawah efforts, it's because we have more children. And the Christians do more dawah over there, but we
Muslims make
produce.
more babies.
Yeah.
So no, bro, just keep putting them out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so take us back. Where are you born exactly? Like, what area are you from?
So born in West London, Paddington, but grew up in South London all my life, Southwest, and then we moved to Southeast, so Woolwich pretty much.
Woolwich sides.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen you around there before.
Back in the Woolwich days.
Yeah. Those
Thames
days.
Reed, all those areas.
Yeah.
Okay. Mashallah. So originally, was you around when all that gang stuff used to happen around there? Woolwich, Thames Reed, Cherry, and all that stuff.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I remembers you, man.
I remember you actually.
No. I think I saw you going to the masjid there not too long
Probably,
ago.
the Woolwich Mosque. I got tired of Lewisham, so I thought, give it a try over there.
Why not?
Okay. So Woolwich, tell us about the house life then. Because obviously you was around the gang days, so I'm guessing.
Yeah. Back then, it was a place where most people probably never heard of. Whenever you'd mention Woolwich, people were like, where is that? But at the same time, it was a place where people didn't really go to either. It was quite a territorial kind of environment. It's almost like we were like meerkats. You would know if someone wasn't from the area.
Okay.
So yeah, it had a bit of a reputation. Like, no, you don't want to go down there. And where it's right on the edge of Southeast London, like we're 2 minutes away from Kent. So it's like, it was a bit of a no-go. So
Okay. But when you was raised up, did that affect you in any way? Being around that, or was it like it happened but you was around?
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of the first generation of you would call bandits back then. So yeah, I was in and amongst it all the notoriety at the time, unfortunately.
It was a bad time. We're talking about what, late 90s,
early
early 2000s.
Correct, yeah, early to mid 2000s, yeah.
Things from Woolwich,
Lee Murray.
Lee Murray, the one that's in
he's away right now.
Moroccan prison.
Yeah.
He's from there originally.
Yeah. So
his name used to ring around those days.
What's that boxer? The boxer, the heavyweight.
The
boxer.
MMA. Julius Francis.
Yeah.
From Village.
Yeah. When he had that
fighting right
fight. No, he had a big fight with Tyson back in the day, and that was a big deal.
Back in the day kind of fighter.
Yeah. But that was a very
one
quick
thing
fight.
interesting. I mean, look, Muslim background, and large Somali Muslim community in Woolwich.
Yes.
Did you have a problem? Because there was a time between, let's say, the Somali community or Somali youngsters, I mean, not community, but some youngsters, and maybe some youngsters from the African community having some problems in that area. Were you involved in that in any way?
You're actually well informed. So what happened at the time was originally everybody was friends. We were all together, West Africans, Somalis, even the Chinese and Vietnamese. So you could look at it as one big unit. And there was a lot of, street politics and wars with people from other areas like around here. I won't mention any groups.
That's how you remember him, innit?
No, I know him for good reasons. I actually follow you on Instagram as well. Yeah, so it got to a point where once all of the street wars had kind of finished, the usual, it goes internal, everyone starts fighting everyone. And all of a sudden you notice, oh, we're different, and then it just explodes. But I was always cool with everybody. So when all the non-Somalis went different way to the Somalis, I was always right in the middle of it. So I had no issue with anybody,
Was it due to because you're Muslim or?
No, not really. The Somalis were always like my brothers, to be honest, from the beginning. They were always very hospitable and welcoming to me. I know everybody's mums. I've been to everyone's house. I know everyone's family from West London and beyond. So I don't think it had anything to do with that because I'm actually a revert. So
okay,
yeah,
I thought because you said Yoruba.
Yeah, no. I'm from a hardcore Christian family, like hardcore. Okay. Yeah.
So when you was rolling with them, you was actually Christian.
In the beginning, yeah.
But you lot just none of that was an issue. You lot was on the streets, friends.
Yeah. Nobody looked at me any differently, treated me any differently. Nothing.
And then suddenly, because you're slightly different culture, it's Somalians against different cultures, basically.
Yeah. But truth be told, I was probably closer to the Somalis than anyone else. I remember a lot of guys on the other side saying, you're just one of them, aren't you? I was like, what do you mean you're just one of them? So.
Is that before the Shahada even?
Yeah.
So just interesting with the Shahada, because I assumed, I've met you through the masjid, in a masjid, so I just assume, like he said, okay, he's, Muslim from Nigeria.
Yeah.
But you just mentioned now, you're actually a revert. So a bit on that, man, the journey. How did that happen?
So how did that happen? Okay, so let me rewind. So firstly, I took my Shahada back on November 16th, 2004. But prior to that, I'd actually been secretly looking into Islam on my own. And that came about because I was actually trying to be a better Christian, funny enough. But the more I dug deep, because in Christianity, certainly in Nigerian household, you're not really raised to question much. You just get told, you follow, you listen, that's it. You go to church, clap, sing, dance, that kind of stuff. But there's no real understanding behind why you're doing what you're doing. So I was in my early 20s at the time, so I want to know a bit more because I'm quite a reader, I'm quite inquisitive. But the more I found out, the more I found inconsistencies. And then I started finding out there are different versions of the Bible. Some denominations have more chapters than other denominations. I thought, hold on, this can't make any sense. So anyways, it was around the time where Islam was what you would call today trending. Muslims are always on the news for whatever reason. So I started thinking, what is it about these people? What makes them so special? But mind you, I was always around Muslims anyway, but nobody questioned anything. We never spoke about religion. No one told me anything. So I started doing my own research, and the more I looked into it, the more I found out, the more I wanted to know more. So I became almost, maybe obsessed about Islam, but I kept it all to myself.
And that's due to obviously that your family was Christian.
Family was Christian, but I don't like noise. I like to use my own mind and intellect to look into things, look at both sides as well. So I did that for a process of about a year and a half. And then the turning point was I was at one of my friend's house, Eritrean brother, Muslim family from my neighborhood in Woolwich. And he just invited me around to his house, and I saw two cassettes on his dining table. It said on it, the Quran and the Bible in the light of science. Dr. Zakir Naik and Dr. William Campbell. So,
that they had.
Yeah. So we just come back from college. He said, yeah, come to my house, let's chill, whatever. So I saw that, I thought, I took it, put it in my bag and went home. And that was back in the day when you had those TVs that had the built-in VCRs as well. So I had one of those in my room. So I went home, locked the door, and I think each cassette was like 2 hours long. So I watched the whole thing back to back. Now, at that point, I was kind of convinced by Islam, but, you know, there's always something holding you back saying, if I do this, I can't go back. Is this the right thing? So after watching that, I kid you not, and I'm not an emotional guy, a teardrop rolled out of my eye. And I thought, yeah, this is it. No more questions. This is it. This is the truth. Because of all the scientific facts, you know, there was a guy, who was Muslim, Dr. Zakir Naik, and then the Christian doctor as well. And I thought, wow. It's like, felt like my life had been a lie. So
How old was you then?
So it was just before I turned 22. So I was 21 when I watched that. So then what happened was I decided, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I found out where I just wanted to find a big mosque, just wherever. So I went right after university lectures I had. I went straight to the mosque. It was the one in Regent's Park.
Yeah.
As soon as I walked in, the first person I saw, I said, look, I want to be a Muslim. What do I do? And he looked at me up and down, said, are you sure? I said, yeah, of course. Come with me. I said, okay. Took me somewhere into a room. He brought these other brothers, and I was like, well, who are they? What are they here for? He said, no, don't worry, we need witnesses. So he gave me a little speech. It was an Albanian brother. So I recited the Shahada after him, and then all these hugs started coming out of nowhere, and I'm stiff, you know, from the street. I'm like,
awkward.
These guys hugging me, I'm not used to this. I'm like that. It was a bit funny. And he said, you're very clever. I was like, yeah? Why? Why did you say that? He goes, you waited till after Ramadan to come and do this. Because Ramadan had just finished.
Yeah, the fasting part.
Yeah, and I said, no, I was actually fasting, which I was, obviously without praying. I was like, no, I followed it through. And he goes, even better, well done. So he gave me books, swapped numbers. They kept up with me for a while. And yeah, it was an amazing feeling leaving the masjid and going back to the train station.
So how was it telling your parents? I know that's usually the biggest step after that.
Yeah. So I didn't say anything because, I mean, most of my friends know my mum is a very strict disciplinarian, like scary till this day, okay? In the nicest way possible. So, but she started noticing things over the months, and I think maybe 2 years had passed. And she would ask me.
2 years?
Yeah.
You didn't say nothing?
I said nothing. Yeah.
To anyone, any of your family members?
Nobody, yeah. So she started noticing little things here and there. My mum's familiar with Muslim ways. You know, I think she went to a Muslim primary school. So she could recite Fatiha, but I don't know what it means, obviously. So she would ask me things. Have you become one of them? I was like, one of what? You Muslim? If you change out. The thing with me is I'll never deny it, but I'll never admit it either.
Politician, yeah.
Yeah. I had to tread a very fine line. So I'd never admit it, but every now and then she would find books in my room and things, and then she would start saying things about Islam that I didn't like that really got to me. So it got to a point where I just couldn't handle the things she was saying anymore. And I just said, well, yeah, I follow God. Just like you do, aren't we supposed to? And then all the insults and all the usual stuff. So every now and then, every few months, she would launch what I call a campaign. I'd come home, bedroom door kicked in, prayer mat ripped up, books torn. She would never touch the Quran. That was one thing. So whenever that happened, I remember so vividly, every single time I kicked off, I would always go to my room, open the Quran to read it, and I would always read something that related to what just happened. And it reaffirmed my conviction even more that I've made the right decision. Yeah, every single time without fail.
Did she eventually stop though?
Eventually it stopped. Probably, when did it stop properly? When she realized that this guy is serious. And that was when I called them to say, I'm on my way to the airport. I'm going to Hajj. And then that's when everyone's crying down the phone. Don't do it, please. We'll give you the money back.
That's like the seal of,
yeah.
I'm fully there.
Yeah. And it was like a full-on rant all the way to Heathrow. And I think the driver was Muslim as well, the cab driver, because he just suddenly stopped talking and I could see he was listening. And she put my sister on the phone. They're all crying. Why? Come back.
You're the only Muslim, I'm guessing then.
Yeah.
How long after the Shahada was that when you went for Hajj?
So 9 years afterwards. Yeah, because what happened was I'd moved out of home for a while because I just wanted to be able to practice my religion without hiding behind locked doors to pray and buying halal food without anyone saying, why this? So I moved out for a while at the time. And so when I went to Hajj and then that was it, phone was off for 10 days. Then the next minute before I came back, because what happened was I bumped into some of the producers from Islam Channel and they kept bugging me to do like a short segment with me because they'd interviewed so many other people on the Hajj. They needed a black brother as well. I don't do cameras. I'm camera shy. I'm not good. I don't do these things. So I kept avoiding them. And anyway, one day we were in Mina at the camps. I was asleep and someone was tugging on my foot. And I opened my eyes. It was the producer. I'm thinking, how did he find me here? This is unbelievable. So anyway, I had to give in and they did a show, Footsteps of Ibrahim, I think it was called. And by the time I got back to London, my mum she'd heard that, oh, we've seen your son on TV. And she goes, oh, so you're that bold. You were even on TV, like with chest saying, this is what I am. I'm like, wow, it was out already? Okay. And yeah, slowly but surely, eventually, she came to see the goodness in it and how it benefited her as well. She would always say that out of all the four of us, I've got 3 other siblings, that I'm the best to her. And she one time she said to me, I know you Muslims, you worship your mother's feet. So she's probably heard about, having Jannah's at the feet, yeah, which is why I know you're like this. And I thought to myself, that's true, but I was always like this to you, so.
Always kind of
sometimes you don't see it, sometimes you automatically improve.
Yeah.
Because now there's a concept of, look, God, Allah, and I've got to serve my parents, part of pleasing Allah Almighty. So you start to change. And you know what? When we're so close to ourselves, we don't see it.
Mm.
But the person far away sees that change. And your mom, alhamdulillah, she sees it, she appreciates it. Well, must be. Yeah. And that's also the biggest form of what you call it, da'wah, meaning through your action and your character. Jazakallah for sharing that.
Yeah. In that 9 years then, your dad, you didn't mention about your dad.
Yeah, no. So my mum and dad, they divorced when I was really young. So him being like a typical Nigerian father has to dominate everything. So it was either I went with him or my mum. And my mum's like over my dead body. So he went to Nigeria. He's got another family there. So I didn't really grow up with a father figure as such. Yeah.
So that whole until now, basically.
I mean, every now and then he would phone. The last time I spoke to him was when 7/7, the London. He just called randomly just to see.
15, 20
years 20 years ago, 2005.
Yeah. So he's still quite bitter about
the fact that you stayed with your mum.
Yeah. So, and then I think my mum tried to call him when my son was born in the hospital, but that's your son, you deal with it, kind of thing. Yeah. But alhamdulillah, it didn't affect me in any way because if you're not used to something, you don't know what you're missing.
Of course.
Did you, because a lot of Nigerian families, when they have kids here, they do take them back to Nigeria a couple of years, 2-3 years, learn the culture, learn about maybe respect and so on. Did that happen with you or you just stayed here?
No, I stayed here. I mean, I used to go on holiday with my mum back and forth there when I was young. But I think the last time I went, I was like 3 years old. So yeah. I think my mum knew how to discipline and teach culture on our own, so we didn't really need to go back.
And you said 4 siblings of 3 other brothers or sisters?
I've got 2 sisters and a brother.
You're the oldest?
Yeah, I'm the eldest of 4, yeah.
How do they see your Islam? And
only one of my siblings has ever tried to challenge or speak to me about it, only because we're the closest in age. So she's like 3.5 years younger. the other two, the twins, I'm like 9 years older than them. So they couldn't really speak to me and they were young at the time, just playing Game Boy and stuff, they didn't know anything. Yeah, so my sister was probably the only one. But, look, I pray for them all the time that Allah guides them as he did with me.
At that age of, obviously, you said 21, 22, you became Muslim.
Yeah, 22 years old, yeah.
But you was also partly street still, or by now you've left the streets?
So I was in transition, I guess. Yeah, because at the time, like I said, I was trying to become a better Christian, just to understand more and change certain things within my life. And I was like, at that point, still 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But I knew where I was going at that time. Yeah, it was just a question of when, not if.
Leaving the streets.
Yeah. So I remember when I made the conscious decision, because my sister actually said something to me and I was a bit embarrassed. And I think she said, "Oh, you're 25 and you're still in the gang. Like, aren't you a bit ashamed?" And at that moment, I was a bit like, "Who are you talking to?" kind of thing. But I went away and I was thinking about it. And I was deeply ashamed of myself. Like, she's right. What am I doing? Like, this is child's play. It's nonsense. So eventually, by that time, I graduated from uni, going for my first job. So can't be in both worlds. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So eventually, moved away from that. So that was the first thing. And then I was always heavily involved in, I had a thing for music all throughout my childhood, quite a musical upbringing. So that was another challenge for me as well, letting go of music, which eventually I did in 2010.
When you say a challenge, you mean listening, playing, you mean singing? What was it exactly?
It was singing. So, no, definitely listening, but to the point where I grew to love the business side of it. So myself and a few other friends, we started like a small record label and started signing up some of the local acts and getting them into shows and putting together...
Acts or acts? Did you say?
Yeah. Well, a bit of both, I guess. Yeah, but local artists.
If it's an actor.
Yeah. So local artists. Yeah, we had quite a few of them as well.
Lukman wasn't with you. You know Lukman?
From where?
What's his other name? Lukman is yeah, he does a lot of jiu-jitsu. What's his other name? Luke, innit? Luke. Is it Luke?
Lukman, they call it Lukman.
I think Luke might have been his, because he used to be in Woolwich and stuff, and he was big into like music and rapping and stuff.
Okay, I probably know him by face. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So to get back to the story. So yeah, loads of the talented local artists, doing shows, a lot of stuff that you would consider exciting back then. But I always felt strange about it because I'll be in the studio 1 minute with artists overseeing their projects. But then when it's time for prayer, I'm running off looking for a quiet corridor somewhere to go and pray, because I didn't mess about with prayer by that point. And then you start to feel a bit of a hypocrite, So eventually I realized that, again, you can't do both. You can't exist in both worlds. It makes no sense. Because 1 minute I'm in the studio, they're talking what they're talking about. And the next minute I'm going to talk to Allah about something else. So I made the conscious decision, the right decision to quit. Yeah.
I do find that the beautiful thing about the Quran, it does make it question. If you're a person who reads it and understands it, it does make you question regularly your patterns of behavior.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And like you said, I think there was another story I heard. Was it some kind of racist kind of guy in America? He was trying to find faults in the Quran.
Right.
And every time he kept on opening the verses, it was a question or a doubt that he had been answered within it.
Yeah.
So the Quran, because the Quran is such a way that it has many stories.
Yeah.
And in the stories, you find yourself in the story, whether it's, Ibrahim with the father situation.
Correct,
and even his son, or whether it's Yusuf with his brothers and each story has a narration that somehow kind of, because it's a lifetime story. It's not a story that's just only connected to those days. It goes through the generations.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think you do find similar, because I had the same background where you're in the streets and you want to practice, but you can't mix the two. Because you're praying 1 minute saying Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Yeah.
The next minute you're taking at this, or it don't mix.
Exactly.
Something has to give.
And I was always one of those people who, whenever I'd learn a surah, I'm also memorizing what it means in English. You know, so it's not just me reciting words in Arabic. I have no idea. I know what I'm saying. And it just, your heart starts to ache. You think, what is this? So usually when I do these kind of cleanses, I do it to the extreme. So I remember going home, I got bin bags, every single CD, cassette I owned, put it in the bin bags, went behind my mum's house, threw them in the River Thames. There's about 6 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, looking back.
Someone's getting there doing some fishing.
Yeah.
Because one of these...
I remember looking back, I was thinking to myself, like when I think about it now, if someone had seen me, they would have thought, crime has he just committed? You know, but yeah, I was getting rid of music and stuff. Yeah.
Put in the bin, no?
Yeah, well.
So let me throw it in a place where I can never find it
exactly
again.
In the bin, I might just go back. Let me get that CD.
Yeah, I was thinking, as I said that, I thought, but you might be thinking if I put it in a bin, I can just pull it back out.
It's got a week for the bin collectors to come.
Yeah, exactly.
2 days time, I might get temptation.
Yeah. So I had to be extreme and just throw it in the River Thames.
That was like, that's it, I'm done with it kind of thing.
The end, full stop. Yeah. So I never looked back ever since.
No street gangs, nothing after that, ever.
Not at all. I mean, even with regards to the road, the thing that frightened me about that is, I remember someone once said to me, if you're prepared to put in work on people, as in harm people physically, then you have to equally be prepared for it to be done to you. So then I started thinking about all the things that I might have done before. Do I really want that? No, not for myself, but also knowing the hurt it's going to bring my mum, which is another thing. And then obviously the other side of things where you could end up in jail or whatever, I was more afraid of the repercussions at home, to be honest, than from the authorities. So I put it all together and I realized, it's not worth it. What do I go to university for? Just stop it.
And I think, I don't know what the concept of karma is in Islam, Imam. Maybe add to that, but I do find many people, I don't know why you're laughing. Imam doesn't like political answers, you know. Huh? No, but I do find many people back in the day that...
What did Tiny Boo say? They say karma, we say?
I don't know. What did he say? You remember, bro?
He done like a smoking.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't here. What did he say? We say karma, we say qadar?
We call it qadar.
Yeah.
Is that what he said, yeah? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so qadar Allah.
Yeah.
But, so that concept then, because how I remember it was, many people that done some very bad things, stabbings, shootings. In due time, the same thing happened to them, if not worse.
Yeah.
Whether it was a month, 2 months, a year. And the one it didn't happen to, there was one guy, I won't mention his name, nothing ever used to happen to him. Like, he does everything. You think this guy's a police officer? What is happening? Like, nothing ever happens to this person.
Yeah.
And wallahi, as we was probably starting to come out, I was in prison at this time, I was starting to slowly leave the streets myself. He now gets to 30. And he didn't even do it. You get it now? So that person's been getting away with so many things.
Yeah.
And now he's just got a 30-year bid for something he didn't do. He was around it, but he didn't touch anything or nothing like that. And now you're doing a 30 just because you was in the vicinity. Yeah. So it works in ways.
Allah's justice, akhi. That's it. Allah's in control. People think this, look, I can get away harming this person or killing someone, forgetting that Allah is the one watching you and in control. It's going to come back to you one day. So like you said, the example of that, youngster, he's done this, got away, but now look, your time has come because Allah's in control. It's only people don't see it. The only thing was interesting, you said 24, 25, you moved away. And I was thinking, you know what? How many guys are in their 40s on road? Yeah. Really, look, 21, 22, you should be starting, you could say, look, this is a kid's thing. 14, 15 maybe. But now, 24, 25, you're mature, you got a sense of kind of like understanding. Yeah. You should be out of the game by then. Exactly. Alhamdulillah, you did, man. Alhamdulillah.
Exactly, yeah. And the funny thing is, on the few occasions that I'd actually bumped into people who I had beef with back in those days, in the masjid here, see each other from far, and it's almost like a weird standoff. Just it's like we're trying to suss out each other's temperature, and then it turns into a salam and a laugh and a hug. Like, we were stupid, weren't we back then?
MashaAllah.
We've spoken about that many times. That there was people that was in very bad situations against each other, life and death.
Yep.
and then once they find out they're both Muslims and they're both on a different vibe now, the sincerity is clear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like wiped away. Even you might have stabbed me, I might have shot you. But now I know you're serious and I'm serious. That's it, khalas.
Yeah.
Do you get me? Again, I put that down to being sincere as a Muslim. Because when you're not sincere with it, when you saw him and he saw you, whichever one wasn't really practicing, it's easy to understand the other person is not on what you're on. And for that person then to do something and then for you to react in a way to defend yourself in essence.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
It's true.
But when you're both sincere in a particular path, especially in Islam, you do find it washes away the past kind of grievances that people have had.
Absolutely, yeah.
Karim, you mentioned something about university.
Yeah.
So I'm keen to hear about your work. I mean, I know you as a trainer, fitness trainer, personal trainer. And inshallah, something we discussed just before we started the podcast was about being a football kind of like agent. So we'll come to that. But just start off with the uni, inshallah, in terms of what did you study in uni, and you graduated. What did you do with that degree and so on?
Yeah, sure. So I studied accounting and business management. So I did that in London Metropolitan at the time. Boring, absolutely boring. I realized in the second year I don't want to be an accountant. But of course, home, you can't come back and disappoint, so I continued with it until that finished. I actually graduated twice. So I've also got an economics degree.
MashaAllah.
Accountancy and economics.
Yeah, I know, right?
MashaAllah.
But the reason for the second one was at the time, it was for not so good reasons, but turned good in the end. I think a friend of mine at the time, we were both trying to raise money so we can buy cars and sell them. And, we're little entrepreneurs at the time. So we thought, okay, why don't we just apply for another university degree, get the loan and use that as startup capital? So, okay, interesting. So we did that anyway. Of course, you have to go in every so often to show your face so that they can register that you're there. You get your money each semester. But every time I went in, I liked what I was hearing. And I thought, wow, economics. Why didn't I do this in the first place? So I just stuck with it for another 3 years. And more debt, unfortunately. But, when you enjoy something so much, and then I just started thinking, what a time waste. Why did I do accountancy? It's the most boring thing on earth.
Going through numbers. Economics ain't too far off though.
But economics is the study of scarce resources. If you can master that and truly understand it, I'm telling you, it helps you with regards to how you run your household. If you become an entrepreneur business-wise and just understanding certain trends and things as well.
So a lot of people think it's like accounting, basically. Figures. No, economics is very deep, and there's a philosophy behind it as well. Philosophy, economics, so it's very different. But did you those degrees, did you go into work into accounting or economics or?
Well, right after that, I applied for a role with a prominent bank at the time to be a personal banker. So had some kind of graduate scheme going on. Okay, but these times I didn't know that working with interest banks was haram. So I thought, okay. So went to a few interviews. They offered me the role. But then by chance one day I happened to be on a website of a big car firm, the biggest in Europe. And I saw they were advertising vacancies. The pay was a lot more. You do fewer days, 4 days a week instead of 5 or 6. I thought, interesting. So I applied for it, just trying my luck. So I got the job and then I just called up the other job with the bank, said, look, thank you, but no thank you. I'll be turning it down. So I did that. 3.5 years afterwards, I got promoted into a management role there that I didn't apply for. I just got a tap on the shoulder one day and said, yeah, from tomorrow you're upstairs, which means you're part of the management team. So I was there for like 8.5 years. And yes, I did use a lot of what I learned in economics in my role as a manager. Okay. Yeah, in the car firm, yeah.
Okay. And this car firm, I'm guessing, because you've gone through many years, it's only several years back now.
Yeah, so I left there to start my fitness company in 2016. Yeah.
So what's that business now?
So I started an e-commerce business where I manufacture premium quality weightlifting belts, gloves, elbow sleeves, knee sleeves.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just simply came from being a user of these things myself, but constantly having to replace and change them because of poor quality. So me being me, avid researcher, found research where the best factories and manufacturers in the world are for these kind of things. Of course, Pakistan.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not China?
No, not for leather goods and sports goods, no. Pakistan is even the World Cup footballs and stuff are made there. So yeah, I spent months talking to different manufacturers, making sure we're in the same wavelength, trying and testing different products back and forth. So it got to a point where I was focused more on that than my work. My lunch breaks was spent talking to people in Pakistan. So I thought, I need to stop this now and just focus.
Even though you haven't sold anything yet?
No, I'd done a few trial orders. So what happened was I made some gloves for myself and a few of my gym friends. So there's about 10 of us. I made about 20 pairs. Everyone got theirs. And I thought, okay, let me see what I can do with the rest of these. So I went to a shop that I usually go to buy protein and supplements. I was like, look, I've got these 10 gloves. Can you sell them and just pay me whenever? And the guy paid me straight away, and he started putting prices on them and put it on the shelf. And I thought, wow, just like that. Okay, cool. 2 weeks later, he calls me and he goes, we need about 30 more. I was like, uh-oh, I wasn't expecting this. I was just making gloves for me and my friends. I'm back on the phone to Pakistan. Listen, I need more. So did that, got more gloves. And then I thought, let me try this, see if I can replicate this in another similar shop. Follow the same process, same thing happened again. So now they're asking, but can you make X, Y, and Z as well? And I'm like, yeah. I got on the phone, started designing, talking back and forth. But what I would always do is I would go and buy a product and then study it and then improve on it, like visibly. So my thing is I'm only going to make something if I know I can make it better than the best product on the market. So I did that a few times and then grew and grew and grew, started going to more shops, and then eventually took it online because there's more money online.
Of course.
And it just grew from there. Won an award for Fitness Brand of the Year within the southeast of England.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And you've been doing that for the last 7 years?
More than that now. It's 10th year. Officially started in 2014. Yeah, that's when the idea first came. Yeah, the first batch of gloves,
10 years now.
Yeah, so I've got 7 core products. I do often get requests from, companies to make other things as well. But again, if I can't do better than what's already out there, I'm not going to do it just for the sake of pleasing that market. I have to be the best at everything.
That's your kind of USP.
Yeah. So
Abdulkarim, so basically the focus is being just the business, nothing else. You weren't working in the last 10 years, working in the other kind of like...
So I left my full-time job to do that. Everyone thought I'd lost the plot. I'd actually tried to quit my job on 2 occasions before that, but I was talked out of it by the directors and stuff. And then the 3rd time I said, look, this time I'm gone. But out of respect, I gave 2 months notice. So I said, look, I'll help to train whoever takes over my position, because usually it's a month's notice or people just disappear. I said, I'll give 2 months to help to train
the next person.
Yeah.
Who's going to manage.
Yeah, so they promoted 2 people.
Take your position.
Yeah. They promoted 2. So then, at the end of it,
Credit to you. Credit to you in terms of even the work before. That requires discipline, requires dedication, that requires hard work. You've done it in your job, but you took that to your business as well. It's a good characteristic, man.
Yeah, and then you get one of the best feelings for me with regards to my business is seeing strangers with my products. Even till today, I still get that. My heart skips, So I remember telling myself the first time I see someone with my product, I'm going to give them their money back. When I first saw it, I thought, am I seeing things? I got closer and closer. The guy was side-eyeing me thinking, what's this guy? And I see your hands. And then I thought, it is my thing. So I said, wow, where'd you get those from?
Yeah.
From so-and-so place. I was like, okay. So what do you think of it? So he gave me his feedback. I go, so would you recommend it? He goes, yeah, of course. In fact, I'm going to get another pair for my brother. So, okay. Then I revealed who I was. He asked to take a picture. I said, there's no need for that. But I gave him his money. Well, I tried to. He wouldn't take it. So I ran to the car. I had another product I just brought. I said, look, at least take this, have this on me. just a show of appreciation. You're the first person I've seen that I don't know using my products, and then
it's a good it's a sense of pride, but a good sense of pride.
Absolutely,
I've achieved something, and I wish Muslims, especially the younger generation, would have those kind of lofty aspirations. So alhamdulillah, again, credit to you, man.
Have you read that book? What's it called? Shoe Dog.
Nike.
Yeah,
of course.
Similar to that. If you read it, you know.
Oh yeah. I'm
similar exactly to that.
Yeah. When I first, because I got it on audiobook, because I love audiobooks. So I used to go on drives just to listen to it. Yeah, because I only listen to audiobooks in the car, so I would look for the long way to go home, just to listen to more and more of it. And I did find a lot of similarities, but I also learned a lot from it as well, from 100%. The mistakes that he made as well.
This is where it is. In life, people think, they look at Nike and they think, like, Allah just brought it from the sky and said, Nike, it don't work like that. Like the guy, the trials and the errors and the mistakes.
Wow.
That's how business starts.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Going through that, like you just said, like I saw something and there was trainers before Nike. Like I would, before I read that book, I wouldn't have thought there was trainers before Nike.
Exactly.
I thought Nike was the beginning of trainers.
Exactly.
But he actually got that from other people who already were in trainers. And and his one was he used to go for jogs.
Yeah.
And then he thought, oh, you know what? Let me go look into the trainer thing. Your one was, I'm already going gym.
Yeah.
Let me see how I can.
Yeah, my gloves keep ripping or the seams falling apart. I'm having to buy another pair. I'm a university student. I'm like, think back to when I was in uni when it was constantly having to change gloves and sometimes making do without it and you get calluses. But I'm always one about performance because there's a lot of people in the gyms, very macho. I don't need gloves. Yeah. That's fine. But I know I can do 10% more with gloves.
Okay.
So
it gives you more grip, basically.
Grip, comfortability. You can do more reps. So I look at that rather than I'm a man, I lift iron. It's about performance and what you get out of it.
I need to probably get over my ego.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like my tough hands when people shake my hand, they know I'm going to gym.
Yeah, because I used to always tease those guys and say, oh, you're one of those 1 rep max people, aren't you? You just do 1 rep and that's it. Give me 10 or 20 of those. Now we're talking, so yeah.
Okay, so what's the future now? And you haven't mentioned the company, by the way.
Oh, so it's called Commando Camp.
Commando Camp.
Yeah, it was originally called Gorilla Camp because, we thought, the gorilla, you think of it as a big, strong, dominant type of animal. But I got hit with a lawsuit. Yeah, there was a Spanish company that make orthopedic headgear or footgear, one or the other. And they were just called Gorilla.
Okay.
So
just because on that basis, you can't
just because of that. So the courts ruled that the average person can't decipher the difference between the two and might get it confused, even though the logos were so distinct from each other. So anyway, they ruled that I have to stop and pay a fine, and that was it.
But a gorilla is an actual animal.
Yeah.
It's not like some name you're making up.
And when 2 different industries, they make orthopedic headgear. I had no idea what that was. I researched the company, and it's a company in Spain, but they're not even active. They just parked up the name, and I couldn't use the name or anything similar to it.
It's a nice Commando
Camp, yeah. So growing up as a kid, I always had a thing for G.I. Joe and anything military related. And I thought the commandos are like the elite level soldiers. So I thought, okay, it's an elite level brand. So I just connected the two and called it Commando Camp. And then I did what the Spanish company did, and I trademarked the name, properly trademarked. So, yeah.
Okay. What does that do when you trademark it, though?
So it means nobody at all can use the name or anything similar to it, even if it's in a slightly different industry. So
you done what they done?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens is whenever something comes on the radar of the trademark industry or courts or whatever, you'll get notified to say this is what's happened and this is the action that's been taken.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no one can call it Commando
or anything. Yeah.
What's the future for it now then?
So it's still running. It's so I don't really do the wholesale side of things anymore. I did that just to get out there and sell loads of products at the same time. So I just sell direct to consumer now through the website. Okay. And that's kind of transition now into more into customized weightlifting belts because there was a big demand for that I wasn't aware of. It just hit me during lockdown times. People would DM saying, can you make a customized belt? Which I couldn't, but I said, yeah, okay. On the phone to the manufacturers again, panicking as usual. I said, okay, send me your design. He sent me the design, send it to my guy. Can we do this? Yep, quick, I need it by so-and-so time. Yep, we can do it. He said, how much? I just threw out a number. And then I created an invoice with a payment link. And then a day later, it was paid. I thought, oh.
A single person wanted this? Or
it's one person. So it was one person at first. So I thought, okay, I did that. Sent it to him eventually. And then he posted it on his socials. And then I started getting people DMing me saying, oh, I've seen a friend of mine who's got a belt. He said, you customized it for him. Can you do the same for me? So again, I just repeated the process and it kept happening. People would post it. I get another DM. So then I spent quite a lot of money getting developers to design, like Nike ID, where you can make your own trainers on their website.
Yeah.
So I designed that on my website as well, where you can go on there, design your own belt, choose the material, the colors, whatever you want on it to make it easier. And it's been going well. Yeah, it's been going well.
I'm guessing they pay a premium for that.
Yeah, they pay a big premium. But I realize we're in the age and era where people want to be individual. Everybody wants something that nobody else has. And lo and behold, it works.
I love, man. Sounds like a very beneficial business, bro. And how does it work? Because obviously when you're doing all of that, if they're only shipping out one product at a time, doesn't it add like fees and all of that? One product, because it's customized. So it's not like...
So...
It's not mass order.
I developed what is known as economies of scale with my manufacturer. Because I order so much and spend so much money over the years, they're able to give me the belts even cheaper than when I mass produce the regular ones. Okay, so it doesn't affect me so much sending out one at a time. You see, so yeah.
But they make money regardless because of your bigger orders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
mashallah,
the customized belts cost about 4 times more than the usual normal belts. So people want it.
Of course, because it makes them feel significantly different to others, etc., like a special thing.
Yeah, I've had a few customers get back to me saying someone stole their belt. I was like, well, that won't be hard to find. There's only one of them.
Yeah.
I need another one, please.
Same exact
problem.
one.
Yeah.
The cream, mashallah. I mean, look, in terms of, you're doing very well.
Trying.
What then made you go into wanting to be a football agent?
Okay, so anyone who knows me knows that I'm a football fanatic. Okay, unfortunately. So I love football, but I became really intrigued with the business side of things probably about maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And then it so happened that one of my sister-in-laws worked within the agency of a big football agency. Like they had big, well-known players. She was always talking about, I often hear things at family events or whatever. So I'd question her about it. And the more she told me, I thought, okay. And then you hear stuff in the news about how agents have affected the transfer of one player from one club to another club. And I started digging deeper and I found that a lot of agents don't actually look after their players the way they're supposed to. They just turn up for a check. But these footballers need a more holistic approach, with regards to how to manage their finances, pretty much everything. So I looked into that. Then eventually I found out that FIFA, the governing body of football, they brought in some regulations because the industry had become the Wild West. There were cowboys everywhere. And they weren't working in the best interests of the footballers. So they brought in these regulations, which now meant you have to sit and pass a FIFA exam, which happens once a year in order to become a fully licensed agent. So I knew nothing about the industry. So I did some research to find some courses online. And I found one which was quite expensive, about £1,000. But then I thought, people would say, invest in yourself, or this is it. I just did it and didn't think about it. So I spent 9 months studying everything about football agency. So I'd do like 2 hours a day for 6 days a week, consistently for 9 months. Listen to podcasts. I just immersed myself in that world. And when the exam day came now, it's done in Wembley. This was May last year. Went to sit the exam. Felt physically sick because I thought I failed this. It was horrible. I was depressed sitting that exam. It was the worst. It was worse than anything I did in university. Yeah. So, and I'm seeing all these other agents around who I recognize because they didn't have the license. So there was a deadline. So they get back to you a week later. So I saw an email come through. It said FIFA. I thought, oh my goodness. It was a stressful moment. So I just pressed the button and it said, I just looked at the bottom and it said, congratulations, pass. I thought, what? So I screenshotted it. I sent it to my mum. I'm like, am I seeing right? Does it say I've passed? And she was just screaming out on the phone. And yeah, so that's how it happened. So since then, I've just been, talking to players, clubs, etc., and just trying to establish myself within that industry because it's not easy.
So in essence, you're running two businesses now.
Yeah, so the fitness thing almost runs itself now, pretty much, because I don't package stuff. Got a distribution warehouse, a sale comes through, they see it on their end, they package it, send it off. I just talk to my manufacturer, really. Yeah. And
then this one is now the one that you're more hands-on with.
Hands-on, yeah. And I truly enjoy it, to be honest. I've got 2 players that I'm working with at the moment, young players, because I'm also licensed to work with minors, so anyone under 18. So I want to try and help mold their career from the beginning all the way, or as far as possible.
And the vision for that is obviously just getting more and more players in essence.
Yeah, to establish a fully fledged football agency where I'm now hiring other agents to work as part of the brand as well.
Okay, the franchising kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in that world, there's a lot of gatekeepers in football. And it's quite an elusive, secretive world, because the stakes are high, so nobody tells you anything. You have to go out and hustle and talk to people and rub shoulders in the right places.
And mathematically, is it a percentage game? Meaning, like, I don't know, whatever the player gets, the agency gets a particular fee from that overall?
Yeah, so that's one of the regulations that FIFA have brought in. So agents...
They're giving like a fixed price and fixed...
Yeah, it has been challenged, but the idea is that agents will be paid a percentage of the footballers' remuneration, so their wages, basically. So the club will pay that directly to you. But it's the agent's job to negotiate the best possible package with regards to their wages, imaging rights.
Couldn't a player just do that himself?
Theoretically, they could, but players want to just focus on their craft, and they should, because there's a lot of regulations. It's like law, to be honest. The different articles and things you have to know. And
would you be the person that reads their contracts and then tells them to yes, agree, don't agree, or change it? That will be your...
Absolutely, yeah. And knowing what I know from business and what I've learned over the years, mixed with education, I've developed quite a formidable way of negotiating. That's fair, but firm as well, because a lot of the time, clubs will try to shortchange people if they can. Yeah.
And is your position to obviously try to get the highest bid in essence?
Yeah, to get as much as possible for them, to negotiate the best conditions as well, even if it's to do with like appearance, bonuses, etc. But where I'm focusing mainly on young, 18-year-old players looking for their first contract, etc., you've got to kind of start at a certain level, and put certain measures in place. So if we hit this milestone, then we can open a negotiation to talk about, extending contracts, bigger pay, etc. Yeah.
Sounds exciting, man. I think the more I listen to you, seem like a person who is intrigued with business first and foremost.
Yeah.
Because obviously starting from the other businesses and then moving on to the agency takes a lot of courage to move from one industry to another.
Yeah. To be honest, it comes from watching my mum, because she was a very business-oriented person. Because she and her mum, my grandma, I didn't know her. She died 3 weeks before I was born. She was a multi-billionaire. So my mum grew up rich, silver spoon in the mouth. So she kind of picked certain things and, went in that pathway. And I grew up watching mum do business as well, listening to the negotiations on the phone. She's a dragon, but then I tweaked things in my own way. And I've always been intrigued with how you can take something and triple, quadruple its value, or add value to it to make it of that higher value and sell it on. And, just serving a purpose for people. So solving problems for people, basically.
what's probably one of the best, I would say, advice or tips you have running businesses?
You have to be brave. Yeah, you have to be brave. A lot of people ask me that, funny enough, people that want to get into, maybe leave their work, their job to start a business. And I let them know that, look, it's not for everybody, because when you're employed, you could have a bad day and go home, you're still going to get paid. When you're self-employed, you're running a business, everything is on you. So customer service issues, someone not happy with something, a slow, I don't know, there's a problem in customs, you can't get your stock in quick enough. How are you going to pay your bills now? You've got family looking at you, wife, kids or whatever. It's all on you. So you have to be brave, but also you need to have a plan. So have an end goal and then work backwards from there. So reverse engineer is what I like to call it. Go from
That's
there.
good advice, because a lot of, I think how the futuristic world is going towards more individualistic businesses as well.
Yeah.
As you can see with the whole TikTok and the Instagrams and YouTubes, it's going towards people running their own businesses by themselves.
Yeah.
That's where it's got, whereas in the last 100 years, it's been more one big company and everyone kind of working underneath them.
Yeah.
It's now leaning. So we need more people, Muslims, inshallah, teaching our youngsters how to be, even if you're going to do your own thing, how to do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. And the world we live in now is so open, you don't have to be at a fixed location. And that's another advice I give people, which is just my opinion, is always try to go into a business that has the ability to serve millions, rather than something that, okay, you're just serving a locality, depending on how far you want to go, of course. So for me, that's always something online.
Reach millions.
Yeah, because with an online store, for example, it could be someone from China, Somalia, wherever, buying your products that you've never seen before,
Whereas if you've got a local shop, it's just your neighbor's house.
Yeah. It'd be, oh, hi. Yeah, you again.
It's true. And that's where the millions and billions are made.
Yeah.
If you look at the Teslas, if you look at the, and the what's it called? What's the next biggest company after Tesla, man? Because Tesla's, was it Nvidia?
Okay.
These kind of companies, the concept of them serve so many people. It's not linked to just where that person's from.
Correct.
Does that make sense? So Nvidia's little chip that they have, everyone uses it.
Yeah.
Without even knowing you're using it. That's the craziest thing about it.
Yeah.
Tesla, I don't really know, if I'm honest with you, because it's like one car that Honda probably sells more cars, but it's the idea of EV.
Exactly.
You get what I mean? The perception of we're going towards electrical and whatever, and then obviously it holds value. So understanding these different things in business is key for those youngsters, inshallah, watching this to find what field you want to go in, which one is going to make you more money, which one, it might not even be about money, but it might give you the freedom as well. That's another thing. It's not always about having massive amounts of money. Sometimes it might just be the freedom to live somewhere, make a bit of money, but you can survive.
Yeah.
Because not every country has the same demands wealth-wise to live a good life.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So, khair. Just time-wise, we're obviously upon nearly completion.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, maybe what's the best thing you've learned since practicing, business-wise, deen-wise, that you maybe live by?
I always live by everything I've learned since being a Muslim. And one of the main things, biggest things that made me change my ways from before was the concept of repercussion. Because growing up as a Christian, you're not really taught those kind of things about.
They believe that obviously Jesus died for them, no?
Yeah, so,
So in essence, there is no repercussions because someone has been sacrificed.
At the time, at my young age, I saw through that immediately. That, well, how does that make any sense? But you're not really taught or brought up to question that or to ponder it. Whereas with Islam, it's very clear-cut and black and white. If you do this, this is the repercussions. However, if you don't do this, Allah is so merciful that he will forgive you and give you even more reward for avoiding that thing. So those kind of things. And it just made me ponder and think that you're not invincible. Nobody is. Because before, perhaps I thought I was, because I got away with so much. And, alhamdulillah, I never ended up in jail or anything like that. But yeah, just knowing that everything you do has a consequence. But even
positive
more,
and negative.
Yeah. But even more recently, understanding that everything you do out there, there's someone watching you, apart from Allah, who might not be a Muslim, who's going to say, oh, he's a Muslim, he did that. Let me look into what they're about, And you could be doing something bad and people tarnish all Muslims with that same brush as well. So
basically, watch how you move.
Watch how you move and always keep those repercussions in mind as well as the rewards that you'll get, because that will then push you to do even more and do better, because we can never do enough, really.
100%. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
Barakallah fi, bro. It's been interesting to understand, especially the agency. I would have liked to dig deep into the maths, but Imam Shakur's more. He doesn't want to know about the maths.
We'll talk about that another time.
He just wants to know about yes and no.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll finish on that. Jazakumullah khair for coming. We appreciate it. Inshallah, your businesses grow. You employ more people. You benefit more people, inshallah. We see it all over the place. Was it Commando
Camp.
And the other business?
So it's Maestro Sports Management Group.
Yeah, inshallah, check them out, guys. Next Footballers, run by our brother here. And inshallah, we'll catch everyone on the next one. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.